Okay, welcome. Welcome to those that are here. I don't want to call you by name in case you're on somebody else's phone. So my name is Stephanie Harris, and I am here as serving as the district's mindfulness coordinator and instructor. I am a certified mindfulness instructor. I'm also an art teacher, a very proud art teacher at Lake Orion High School. I've been in the district for 20 years, been in education for over 25 years. So I'm very excited to be here and to offer a little bit of mindfulness and a little bit of mindfulness education to you this evening. So I'm going to be very honest about my lack of knowledge in Zoom. I am a Teams person, so I am going to, if you see my eyes kind of wandering weirdly around, you'll know why. Okay, I do have someone coming in, and again, so if people are coming in the waiting room, I will, try to make sure that I see everyone coming in and so on. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started, and I kind of want to let you know what this evening is about. And the evening is a little bit different than if I were to do an instructional, like professional development. I make up words as I go along. Oh, hold on. Sorry. Because you're here and you came here voluntarily. And so that makes me, first of all, extremely grateful and extremely excited because I feel like I get to go a little bit deeper into some mindfulness information and a little bit deeper into some mindfulness practices, not like scary deep, like, levitating or anything like that, but just at least to be able to talk about some information that I might not do in company that are required to, like, a professional development. So I am really excited to present the information that I have today. I've been working on some new research and kind of developing a different spin. So I hope that you enjoy, and I hope that what I have to offer today resonates with you, because I have a new topic that it's not new in mindfulness, but it's new for me to talk about with mindfulness groups. So with that being said, please also know that this can be as interactive as you want it to be. If you have questions that you want to ask, if you need clarification on something, please, raise your digital hand, or you can even just, pop on screen to talk or whatever you want to do. And I will engage as much as you want to engage, because that actually, in my opinion, is how we can learn better and more deeply. But I am also fully prepared to present and to allow you to sit back and kind of take part as much as you want on your own in the privacy of your, the comfort of your own home. Okay, so a little bit about how mindfulness came into my life. Obviously, we all kind of come into mindfulness and mindfulness practices a little bit differently. And so I want to kind of introduce you on how mindfulness came to me. So many, many times people are introduced to mindfulness practices and strategies through things such as yoga. And so I have been doing yoga for many, many years. And there's this little wonderful nugget of time at the end of yoga that's called Shavasana. And it's basically nap time. And it's this glorious time that you get to just be, and you get to relax and kind of absorb all the things that you work so hard to do during your yoga practice. And so that time was devoted to mindfulness and mindfulness practice. And what I found that was extremely satisfying to me. And that was the part actually that rejuvenated me the most. And, sometimes we kind of joke around and say that, yoga, and especially the little nap time, Shavasana at the end of yoga, is the gateway to a more dedicated mindfulness practice. And I think that's true for me. So I've been doing this now, as a certified mindfulness instructor for about 5 years. And I've kind of developed it into an offering now. So I definitely use mindfulness for myself in terms of self-regulation. I use it as a tool to be able to witness my emotional state and respond better to life than react. I'm not always successful, let's be honest. And I also use mindfulness to put me in a better space for my family, for my job, and for humanity, let's be honest. So me not on mindfulness is not always a good thing. So I am so, I feel very privileged to be able to bring this to you and offer this to you in this setting. So if there are any questions or anything that you need to know before we get started, please do. Again, I'm going to try and navigate Zoom to the best of my ability. I'm going to share my screen so that we can, and I'm going to see how it goes. There's some videos, so I'm going to share sound and so on. Oh, look at that. All right, so let's pull this up and let's start at the beginning. I expect our time together to be about an hour. And can someone tell me if you can see me along with the screen, or do you just see the screen?
I can see both.
Thank you. Just because, like I said, I don't want to not be present with you. I want you to be able to see me as well. And like I said, I'm not super good at that. So all right. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm such a mess. All right. So let's get started on a graphic that I think is very useful. So I'm not sure if this is relatable or not, but this talks about one of the many definitions for mindfulness, training the brain to have focused attention. But it's also a great visual for looking at how we may or may not tend to move through life. So are we mindful? Or do we tend to be a little bit more mindful? And I love the graphic of the dog versus the person, because it's really true. We as humans tend to get, we're the best time travelers. We are great at existing in the future, planning and prepping for Lord only knows what. And we're amazing at, staying in the past and ruminating and thinking things over 100 times, whether that does us any good or not, is irrelevant, but it's still there. So this is something that I feel personally that I can relate to. So just to kind of let you know what our goals are for today's session. One of the goals that I take pride in is having you leave the session feeling better than when you arrived. And I don't want to guarantee it, because mindfulness rests on people differently. For some, it can be soothing and peaceful and calming. For some, mindfulness can put you more into a neutral place, which actually is not a bad place to be. And for some, mindfulness can be a little triggering or emotionally draining at times. And so I do want you to be aware of that and understand that my goal is to have you leaving feeling better than when you arrived. But, like I said, it's kind of like, trying something on for the first time. We don't always know how it's going to fit. We are going to learn how mindfulness can regulate our mind and body, and more importantly, how mindfulness gives us the power gives us this amazing superpower to be able to choose how we regulate our mind and our body. And we're going to talk more about that later. And then lastly, learning ways to incorporate mindfulness into everyday life. So if you're not one necessarily to want to take on a formal daily practice, then there are so many other ways that mindfulness can fit into very small chunks throughout the day. Why mindfulness? There's so many things to choose from that can give us solace, that can soothe our soul, that can ease our mind. So why, out of all of the things that are available to us, why mindfulness? And not to say that those other things that you choose to put you in a good space are not as valuable, but mindfulness in conjunction with those things that you do can be amazing. So here are just a few examples of why I personally gravitate towards mindfulness. Resilience, kind of that ability to just bounce back faster when life tries to take you sideways. Increasing patience. I definitely know when my mindfulness practice isn't where it should be because my patience grows very thin with anybody. It helps to keep us healthier, mind and body. I like to compare mindfulness to working out. We take care of our body. We, try to exercise. We try to eat right. Notice I put try in there. We do these things that we know are good for our body, but up until recently, at least in our culture recently, we haven't really done a lot to take care of our mind. So I think mindfulness is for the brain as exercise and good nutrition is for the body. So, now I'm really hoping that, and I know a lot of people in this world are really hoping that we can really start to take care of our minds and keep our minds healthy so that it's kind of a ripple effect. The world then, I know it's existential, but, we all become healthier when one person is healthier. Stress reduction. And like I said, that ability to emotionally regulate yourself and to just be able to regulate your own nervous system is, in my opinion, worth it all. So like I said earlier, there's many working definitions for mindfulness. And this is the one that I would like to work with today. And I'm going to show you a short video clip that has the person who kind of put mindfulness on the map in our present day culture, which is Jon Kabat-Zinn. And now don't get me wrong, meditation and meditation practices, they have, evolved into our world for centuries. But we're talking specifically about mindfulness that is based in science and research and practice. And so we're going to hear from him in just a moment. But I want to talk about what we're going to use as our definition today, which is having a present moment awareness, being right here, right now, on purpose, and most importantly, not judging the process or ourselves, and approaching it with a little bit of kindness and a little bit of curiosity. And going back to the whys, that is what this brings us. So using this definition, practicing this definition, putting theory into practice, these are the benefits that we get. Okay. So I just want to talk a little bit about this character. It's a Chinese character. And if you know anything about the Chinese written language, which I don't claim to know a lot about, but I do know that it is based a little bit on pictographs, and they take concepts, the pictographs of concepts, and they combine them in order to get other meanings and other concepts. And this is one of them. So if you look at the top upside down V, if you will, that is the that is the Chinese character for now. N-O-W. And then this guy underneath is the Chinese character for heart. And so this concept comes to mean now heart, your heart being right now. And so I really like that definition. Oh, let me admit someone, I apologize. So that we understand that it's not just our mind that we want to be here right now, but we also want to make sure that our heart is right here right now. So let's go ahead and please, Carrie, if you can't see the video when I click on it or hear it, if you could just give me a shout out so I can correct that, I would really appreciate it. So I'm going to get that started.
So let's say you have to read an
Little
incredibly long
advertisement,
email
that's
to
how
your
we get
boss
these
that you have to
for
finish
free.
before the big meeting starts.
There we go.
We can hear it.
Thank you.
Mindfulness is actually a way of connecting with your life. And it's something that doesn't involve a lot of energy. It involves a kind of cultivating attention in a particular way. So the way I define it is it's paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. And then I like to add sometimes as if your life depended on it, because it does. Attention is the faculty that allows us to navigate our lives in one way or another, and to actually know what's happening or know that we don't know what's happening, and find ways to be in a wiser relationship to things that are going on in our lives than being at the mercy, say, of our own emotional reactions and crazy thoughts and fears and so forth. So it's paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally, as if your life depended on it. So paying attention to what, you might ask? Well, it doesn't actually matter. It's the attending itself that's important, more important than what it is that you're paying attention to. But that said, if you start to pay attention to how much attention we pay to anything, you begin to notice that the mind is all over the place. It never sits still. It's got this idea and that opinion and this reaction, and we spend a huge amount of time planning and worrying about the future, and a huge amount of time reminiscing about the past and who did what to whom, or why it worked out this way, or why it didn't work out this way. And the present moment, which is the only time that we're ever alive in, the only time we could learn anything, express any kind of love or emotion, the only time we could be in our own body, the only time we can see or hear or smell or taste or touch or communicate, is now. And yet the present moment gets completely squeezed out by all of our preoccupation with the future and the past. When we start to pay attention to our own mind and our own body, it's like reclaiming your life. Mindfulness is not a technique, although there are many, many different ways to cultivate mindfulness. It's actually a way of being embodied, being in some sense in equilibrium with the comings and goings of the outer world, and even the comings and goings and the ups and downs of having a body, which of course has its wonders and is also at sometimes seriously problematic when we're dealing with health problems of one kind or another, or things that can happen to the body. And as long as we have this capacity for awareness, why not develop it? Much of the time, if you think about our educational system and how we grow up, we are trained more and more and more to get into thinking. And thinking is wonderful stuff, very powerful. Some of the greatest achievements of humanity come out of thought, and out of imagination and out of creativity. But the other piece of it that's equally as powerful as the capacity for thought is the capacity for awareness. But we get no training in awareness and attention, huge amount of training in thought. So a lot of the time when we get into bed at the end of a long day, we can't deal with our thoughts, and we can't sleep. They just kind of perseverate over and over and over again, the same thoughts. We want to shut them out. The more you try to shut them out, the more they come in, and pretty soon you don't get to sleep, or you wind up with, basically chronic anxiety or some kind of condition or other. Depressive rumination can spiral you into depression, a little bit of sadness, and then that triggers this kind of perseverating constantly, what's wrong with me? Why don't people like me? Why didn't she look at me? Whatever it is, these are all thoughts. I'm no good. I'm too old. My life it's all downhill from here. All of those things, they're only thoughts, but most of the time we think of them as the truth. So what mindfulness does in a way is it embraces the actuality of the mind, the heart, the body, and our relationality with the outer world, and gives us new degrees of freedom to navigate the ups and the downs and the ins and outs of our relationships with life, with other people, with our own aspirations and our own fears, and also, and most fundamentally, with our own body. Now, most of us don't want to go anywhere near our own body except under very specialized circumstances at particular times. It seems like, wow, it's wonderful to have these bodily experiences. But a lot of the time, we're just pretty much up here. Thinking, and really believing so many of these thoughts as the truth that we wind up in a very narrow band of what's actually possible for us in terms of our human experience.
Okay, so coming back to you, I want to really talk about that idea of, let me come back to you. Let me just come back to you for a minute so I can actually see. Boy, you get to see all of it, don't you? Stop sharing. All right. Okay, so I want to just really focus on what, there was so much said by Jon Kabat-Zinn. And one thing that I really wanted to focus on, which a lot of what we're going to focus on today is about, is this idea that you are not your thoughts, that what you think is not necessarily the truth. Your thoughts are not necessarily the truth, but sometimes we get so caught up in our thoughts that we don't have the ability to separate ourselves from what is really happening around us. Taking this much of our thinking process and the attention to it, and then being able to expand it to such a great degree that we then develop this relationship with our mind and our body and the world and environment around us that is so much healthier and very rewarding. So I am going to go back to our screen here. All right. So let's talk just a smidge about what mindfulness is not, because I think that this can get some people at a roadblock or a stumbling block with mindfulness. And so I just want to clear up a few misnomers. One is that mindfulness is only calmness and only happiness. And I think I touched on that earlier about it's not a one size fits all. It's something that you try on, and there are moments where it may bring you calmness and ease and happiness. There are also moments where it may bring up emotional issues, or it may trigger specific things. But the amazing thing with mindfulness is that it then allows us to use mindfulness practices to get a better relationship with some of those emotional triggers we may have. It's not a silver bullet for everything that's wrong in our life. Things are still going to be wrong in our lives. And mindfulness, yes, will give us the tools to see them in a different way and relate to them possibly in a healthier way. But I want to make it clear that, I am not a counselor. I am not a therapist. And so mindfulness, in my opinion, is a tool. It's a skill that we develop over time that is then called upon and utilized when we hit those bumps in the road. It's utilized all the time, but we then have the toolkit and we have the ability to deal with things better and in a more neutral way when we have mindfulness practices in place. But me personally, I'm not someone to go in when someone is in stress or trauma and say, oh, mindfulness can, come with me. Let's have a mindfulness practice and let's fix that. So I want to be clear what mindfulness is and what mindfulness isn't. The absence of thought. And I think that is a major roadblock for many, many new people to mindfulness, is they sit and then all these thoughts start rushing in to their mind and oh, I did it wrong. I can't do this. I quit. And I really want us to understand that mindfulness is not the absence of thought. It's navigating. It's learning to navigate thoughts. Your mind is designed to create thoughts and to think and to be creative, just like your pancreas is designed to create insulin. Your mind is doing its job. And what we do with mindfulness is we just learn to see the thoughts in a different way, navigate the thoughts in a different way, appreciate the thoughts differently. And so the absence of thought is not our goal. So I really want to be clear about that. And religious, that is another roadblock for some people. The mindfulness practices that I teach and that I practice is based in science and research, and it's based in just a theoretical practice that was developed by John Kabat-Zinn called mindfulness-based stress reduction. And does it have roots in things that cultures from long ago? Yes, but what it's been, distilled down to in this practice is strictly based in research, practice, and science. So whether that sits well with you or not, I just want to be clear. So I'd like to take a moment and I would like for us to do what's called arrive. So we show up at a practice, we show up at a speaker, a conference, and we get settled. And then all of a sudden it's, jotting notes down or possibly starting to think about, well, I forgot to do this today and I forgot to do that today. So I'm going to offer this time for us to just experience the practice of being here right now on purpose. So let me stop sharing my screen and come back to you. And I would like to offer up a particular way to do this. And I understand that some people are more comfortable maybe doing it in a different way, and I honor that. But I'm just going to offer a way that I like to practice, a very short practice called arriving. So the first thing I do is make sure that my feet are planted firmly on the ground, as I have a tendency to cross my legs, or if I'm sitting in a comfy chair, I, sit pretzel legs. So just put your feet firmly on the ground, almost as if you're trying to plant them into the earth. And then consider your spine as this beautiful, pole that holds you upright all day long. And so to honor that, we're just going to kind of sit with integrity, and we're going to sit up tall and proud, but we're also going to be relaxed and comfortable. There's no reason to be tense or tight or uncomfortable. So don't overarch your back. Sit comfortably, but I call it upright, but not uptight. And your hands can just be comfortable in your lap or, wherever you'd like to place them. And then our eyes, that's up to you. Closing them is optional. Some people are not comfortable closing their eyes, but if you are, I recommend just to close your eyes, relax kind of the skin around your eyes, or just gaze down and kind of soften your focus. Okay, so let's go ahead and give it a try. And then I like to take a nice inhale, especially if I've been talking and I need a little bit more oxygen in my body. And then I just want you to notice what it feels like to be here, to be in the space that you find yourself in right now. Just notice the weight that your body is putting on your cushion. Notice where your shoulders are. Notice where your neck is. Notice where your hips are. And just check in. And your breathing should be just a normal breath that you would normally breathe to keep yourself healthy. Don't over exaggerate, no need to. And then I'd like you to really check in with this body of yours, this amazing body of yours. See if you can feel the weight of gravity pulling you into your seat just a little bit more. Also use the gift of gravity to allow your shoulders to sink maybe 1/4 of an inch lower. The muscles kind of slip down your back just a little bit more. Notice the neck just kind of relaxing in its space. Your jaw a little less tense. And your eyes just soften. While we're checking in, notice if there's an area somewhere in your body that feels a little tight. Notice if maybe the tightness exists in your hips, maybe in your stomach area, your chest, your neck. And as you inhale, imagine sending the oxygen that you're breathing into that spot of tightness. Imagine that the oxygen then kind of wraps itself around that tension, gives it a little squeeze. And then as you exhale, it takes the tension with it. And then maybe noticing another area or going back to the same area if that didn't give you enough relief. Breathing in, sending the oxygen like a messenger to the area of tightness, wrapping it like a squeeze, like a tight hug, and then escorting it out with your exhale. Checking in again, noticing if there's any other areas that can soften. Coming back to your environment, noticing the sounds around you, noticing your breath. And then just gradually, when you feel comfortable, opening your eyes or lifting your gaze. And then one last final check-in to see if you find yourself in a different place. Maybe a little bit more present, maybe a little bit more relaxed, maybe a little bit more open. And if not, that's okay. All right. So that is a practice just called arriving. And sometimes I like to do that when I know that I am not present. If I come into a meeting, if I come into a classroom, if I come into a space that I know needs my attention or just needs me to be present, sometimes I just take a moment, and it doesn't even have to be that long. And there's some other strategies we're going to talk about called grounding that can do the same thing a little bit more quickly. All right, any questions or comments about arriving? Okay. So I'm going to share my screen again here. All right. And then I really want to point out this little with mindfulness, you can't do it wrong. The only way to do mindfulness wrong is not to do it at all. And the great thing about mindfulness too is that you can start over again and again and again. You can start over 20 times in a 1 minute period of time. There's no goal to reach. There's no finish line. So I want to talk about this idea of you are not your thoughts. So imagine there's a massive storm around you, and knowing that the storm's going to come no matter what. What you do in the midst of that storm is kind of what mindfulness is about. It's how you choose to accept the storm, deal with the storm, protect yourself from the storm. That's kind of what mindfulness is about, because the storm's coming and the storm is here, and they come and they go, and we experience so many throughout our lives. And mindfulness kind of gives us that protective rain gear and safe shelter, if you will. So I'd like to offer up just kind of some rhetorical questions for you to think about. One being, when you're in a grocery line, or you're driving to work, or you're getting ready to go to sleep at night, what are the things that pop into your head? And you don't really have to answer with, specifics, but just think about it. Like, for instance, when I lie down and I get ready for bed and I get ready to go to sleep, I do what I call getting the note cards out. And that's that flipping through, and some of those note cards are like 20 years old. And I still got them in there, and I'm going to flip through them night after night after night. And I may pull those note cards out in the grocery line. And furthermore, what are some of the emotions or moods you tend to gravitate towards when nothing else is happening? So when you're in the grocery line, is it impatience? When you're lying down at night and the note cards come out and you start ruminating, is it sadness? When you're bored and you have absolutely nothing to do you start to get cranky and angry? Like, what are some of the moods or emotions that you tend to gravitate towards when nothing else is happening? So this is this idea of starting to understand and take on this new idea that we are the observer of our thoughts. We are not our thoughts. We are the observer. We are just merely witnessing these thoughts that can pop into your mind voluntarily or involuntarily. And we can believe them to be true, which then possibly triggers a mood or an emotion. Or we can stop, breathe, ground ourselves in any way we choose, which then develops this space that we can then become the observer. And we can look at the thought kindly, with compassion, with curiosity, and without judgment, and just notice it for exactly what it is. It's a thought, and thoughts come and they go. And another layer of that is emotions too come and go. Emotions are not permanent either. So if you can witness a thought or an emotion and just honor it, and then know that it will pass, some amazing things can come from that. And it's one of the cornerstones of understanding mindfulness and its benefits, the awareness of our thoughts, the awareness of our emotional state. The capacity to choose where we place our attention is one of the most valuable and powerful resources we have, and it's with us all the time. And then this idea that this visual I like about the mind molds itself around whatever you perpetually drape it over. So if you're perpetually draping your mind over negativity, it's going to take on that form. You change the form underneath it, your mind then too alters itself. Our mind is more malleable than we give it credit for. So I'd like to give you a visual to better understand this. And so just kind of bear with me here. And again, I'm going to come back to you so I can be with you in this moment. So what I would like you to do, and most people find that this is possible, but if you're not able to do this little visualization, there's nothing wrong with you. It doesn't mean, that you have some sort of mental block or anything like that. Please don't take it for any more than what it really is, and just kind of work with it as much as you possibly can. And I'm making way more out of this than what it really is. So what I'd like you to do, and we're going to do a visualization. So if you can visualize things better when you close your eyes, do so. Or if some people look up or some people look down, but I want you to do this visualization. Okay, so kind of get ready here. All right. I would like you to visualize in your mind's eye a triangle. So mentally, in this cone of vision, in your mind's eye, visualize a triangle. And then once you have this triangle, see if you can make the triangle a solid blue, like the one we saw in the video or in the past slide. So you've got a blue triangle, 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional is totally up to you, in your mind's eye, kind of floating up here. Could be floating in a field, doesn't matter. And then see if you have the ability to move that triangle, maybe rotate it, move it up and down, side to side. And then just hold on to the best of your ability to the vision of that triangle for 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 5 seconds. And then just as easily as the triangle appeared, have the triangle dissolve from your cone of vision or dissolve from your mind's eye. So if you were able to do that, and if you weren't, again, don't put more into it than what it is. It doesn't mean anything. It means you're probably just busy in your head. It's okay. But if you were able to visualize this triangle, first of all, you experienced a moment of focused awareness purposefully, like on purpose. So that's a win. And secondly, you were able to conjure up something that most likely you had no attachment to. I'm guessing that you had no personal attachment to that blue triangle. You were able to conjure it up as quickly as you could also dissolve it and make it go away. You're not sad that it's gone. You weren't sad that it arrived. It didn't make you anxious, most likely. And if I'm wrong, please correct me. But it was pretty neutral, pretty generic is what I'm guessing. That is a visual representation for a thought. The blue triangle is a thought. Now, I know thoughts are very powerful and they carry a lot of weight. But if you can get to the point where you can see that triangle as your thought, that you have a very neutral relationship with, because you've created space using mindfulness tools and techniques, now you're onto something. And that's our goal with this concept of you are not your thoughts. It's the idea that you are separating yourself. You are viewing your thought as the blue triangle and becoming as neutral and as kind to it and as non-judgmental to it. Most likely you weren't judging the blue triangle. You weren't like, man, that's a pretty blue triangle. You weren't judging it. You were just seeing it for what it was. Okay, so let's kind of move on with that little encapsulated thought and or concept. Okay. So this is in essence what we are aiming to do. We're aiming to take a stimulus, a thought or an emotion, which typically results in a reaction. So we have this little visual here. And that's where many people who don't practice mindfulness and are not naturally realized in their life have a tendency to go right to reaction, which we could then regret, maybe isn't real well thought out, and can trigger a lot of emotional baggage and just mental exhaustion. But with mindfulness, the stimulus being a thought or something that happens in our life or a mood. And then we have mindfulness, which is this golden gap, this space. It could be a breath. It could be a grounding strategy or activity. It could be just counting to 10. But it gives us the ability to step away from the stimuli and then better respond to it. Even if the response is neutrality, even if the response is, I am choosing not to engage. So this is, in a nutshell, where our aim is with mindfulness. Side note, this isn't about avoiding or denying the struggles and the hardships and the difficulties of life. It is about understanding that we can develop this skill, this life skill, to better face it, honor it, and work through it. Eckhart Tolle describes stress as this gap between what we think life should be or our momentary situation should be and where we want it to be. And that gap is called the stress gap. I want this, but this is what is really happening. This is where stress happens. And mindfulness allows us to close that gap and better understand that what is what is. And we have the ability and we have the power with mindfulness to accept it and to honor it and to treat it with kindness and curiosity and move on. So there's a video here that I feel that is so worth showing because it beautifully illustrates this idea that we are not our thoughts, and that by stepping away and being the observer or the witness to our thoughts, we have so much power in how our body regulates. So this to me is worth seeing. Please let me know if the sound or the visual is not working properly.
There is a story, usually attributed to the Native American tradition, which illuminates different ways of paying attention. An elder, talking to a child, says, "I have two wolves fighting in my heart. One wolf is fearful, vengeful, envious, resentful, and deceitful. The other wolf is compassionate, loving, generous, truthful, and peaceful." The child asks, "Which wolf will win the fight?" The elder responds, "The one I feed." That doesn't mean we try to deny or hurt or kill the angry wolf. If we did that, we'd end up in a long battle, all the while somehow making that wolf more powerful through our hostility and fear. Hating that wolf sucks the strength right out of us. Instead, we calmly pay attention to the angry wolf and let go of believing they have the answers. If we can do that, they end up lying down next to us, no longer an enemy. We help strengthen the kind and loving wolf, giving it nourishment and support so that we can follow it. That peaceful wolf can become our steady companion and show us the way through all kinds of different life experiences. Restful or chaotic, enjoyable or disappointing experiences may come and go, but we can have a guide with us through it all. This is what mindfulness can help you do. Mindfulness allows us to see our thoughts and feelings as they are beginning. It's very powerful to know what we're feeling as we're feeling it, know what we're thinking as we're thinking it. With mindfulness, we can choose what will strengthen and bring into action, and we can choose what we will gently let go of. We don't have to be at the mercy of old habits or old ways of thinking or old ways of being. We are empowered. It just takes practice.
That is one of my personal favorite analogies, if you will, for how we can approach our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions. And what I want you to notice is the red wolf never went away. Even in the end, it was there, but it was soothed and calmed, and it was treated with respect and kindness. And I really want to stress that because, like I said, our goal is not to, it's never going to all go away, but the way we approach it and how we treat the baggage and the trials and the hardships in our life will in turn dictate how it treats us, if that makes sense. All right. Let me get out of this. And Happify is actually an app that, there we go, that you can, I believe it's a subscription app, excuse me, that has all kinds of wonderful mindfulness meditations. And I'll give you a lot more resources as well. Let me check the time. All right. So what is everyday mindfulness? So if we're not necessarily willing to start in on a formal mindfulness practice, what is mindfulness what does it look like in our everyday life? So we have grounding techniques. That is something that you can do quickly in moments of the grip. I like to call it the grip, where I'm nervous or I'm tense. And it allows us to kind of return back to the present moment. Grounding is also great for self-regulating during a time of heightened anxiety. This one we can do very quickly, and that's one of the reasons why I chose this one, because it is quick and it is very effective. So it is the 5-4-3-2-1, or some people refer to it as the 5 senses grounding method. And this is, you know, the system that I use to execute it, but I'll go through it with you. So if you'd like to participate with me, I think that would be amazing. So you can kind of see how it works for you. I like to start any grounding activity or mindfulness activity with a very intentional inhale and exhale. And then I'd like you to look around your environment and note 5 things that you can see. So you're going to use the sense of your vision, and you're going to look around and actually note what it is that you're seeing in your mind. So if I were doing this in my mind, I would say a lamp, an antique lamp, a floral antique lamp, and then move to the next one until I've hit 5 observations. So go ahead and do that, and I'll guide you through the rest. And then I would like you to note 4 things that you can hear in your environment. And if closing your eyes is, first of all, safe, because sometimes you can do this while you're driving, closing your eyes helps you to hear better. and just tune into the sounds in your environment. Like I hear chimes that are outside my window. Just pause between each, noticing. And then if you like to keep your eyes closed, that's great. If not, you can keep them open. Notice 3 things that you can feel. So you can actually move your hands and you can touch the fabric of your clothing. Notice, is it rough, smooth? Maybe the chair you're sitting in. Maybe your pet that happens to be luckily on your lap. And then notice 2 things that you can smell. And it may not be super convenient, but if there's something near you that you can smell, or maybe dinner cooking, or perhaps your perfume. And if you can only notice 1 thing, that's fine too. And then lastly, notice 1 thing that you can taste. Maybe you just brushed your teeth. Maybe you just took a drink of something, or nothing at all. And then just take 1 last inhale and exhale. And then move on with your day, move on with your activity. And that is just enough time to bring down the cortisol levels, to bring down some of those stress hormones that are going on in your body. Kind of, I don't know if anyone noticed while you were doing it that things were kind of softening a little bit. And if it doesn't work the first time through, then perhaps you try again. So that's a grounding activity, like I said, something that's fairly quick and easy to do anywhere, anytime. Gratitude is an amazing daily mindfulness practice. There's been many studies that have actually proven that people who are grateful on a daily basis, that actually practice it, whether it's outwardly, inwardly, journaling, writing down things they're grateful for every morning and every night, but it's an active practice, they found that they can rewire their brain to lean more towards the positive instead of the negative. Gratitude is an extremely powerful practice and mindfulness practice. So this is a gratitude challenge that I like to offer people. We're gonna kind of move through this, but if you'd like to do this on your own, it's one where you sit and you set a timer for 5 minutes and a sheet of paper and a pen, and you kind of force yourself kindly and gently to write down as many things as you're grateful for and to not stop until the timer goes off. And you get down to the nitty gritty. In 5 minutes, you get past the family and the friends and the children and the gifts that you've been given in your life. And you start getting down to the nitty gritty, which really pushes you into that gratitude muscle. And it's really a great activity to challenge yourself to do on occasion. It really kind of flexes that gratitude muscle. So this is something that you can do, you know, on your own sometime to see where you're at. The power of joy is a mindfulness practice that you actively seek out. So instead of just saying, oh, my life is very much full of joy, which if it is, that is amazing. But actively seeking out joy is a different tool that we can add to our mindfulness toolbox. And sometimes, you know, I like to offer up this activity to participants if you'd like to maybe just do this mentally, but to think of something that makes you joyful. 3 things 3 things that make you joyful in the morning, specifically just in the morning. So just mentally kind of going through, definitely coffee is at the top of my list. I go to bed at night and I think 8 hours till coffee. So that is a big joy in my morning. So actively just kind of ticking down some joys, some things that bring you joy in the morning. And then after a long day and you finally arrive home, what are 3 things that give you joy in the evening? Specifically in the evening, whether it's finally hitting the couch and watching some amazing 90 Day Fiancé, whatever it is your guilty pleasure. What are the 3 things? Maybe it's going for a walk with your dog. See if you can do a mental list. And then lastly, what are some things that offer you joy as a whole? What are some grander, bigger things in your life? Can you list 3 things that offer you joy overall in general in your life? And if you've struggled to do any one of these, think about that and start naming things that bring you joy that maybe you can start implementing into your daily life. Experiencing joy on a daily basis, even if you have to make it happen, so powerful for the overall health and well-being of your mind and your body and your heart. And here is just kind of a laundry list of many other things that we can do every day that fall into the mindfulness practice category. Eating mindfully, actively taking the time to eat while being present. I can't tell you how many meals I've ingested, and then when I'm done, I don't even remember eating. I wasn't present. And eating mindfully is an amazing skill. It's good for digestion. It's good for nutrient absorption. It's good for regulating how much you actually eat and when you feel satisfied. Being present during mundane tasks, like when you're taking a shower, have you gone through your entire morning meeting before you even get out of the shower? You've met with every single person you're supposed to meet with before you even get out of the shower. How many people are in your shower in the morning? And just actually feeling the water and feeling the heat and nourishing your body with that time in the shower, cooking, cleaning, sitting. Journaling, mindful listening. Mindful listening is a gift. Mindful listening is an act of love. To actively be present with someone and just listen. That is an act of love. And actually starting up a daily formal practice. So we're going to go, if you have the time, I would like to take you on just a 2 or 3 minute mini vacation. And we're going to use the mindfulness practice or strategy known as visualization again. And we're just going to go on this little mini vacation before we end our session together. Let me check the chat to make sure. All right, no worries. I got control. I got this. Okay. Carrie's our curator of all of this. So I just want to make sure she's taken care of. All right, if you're ready, we're just going to go on a little vacation. So we're going to find our mindful body that I talked to you about earlier, where you just kind of find this beautiful neutral spine, being present in your body, but still being comfortable. And then just softening your eyes or closing your eyes if that's comfortable. We're just going to go to a place that's yours and only yours, that you have access to whenever you want. We're going to create that right now. So as I always do, I start with a nice cleansing inhale and exhale, but if that's not comfortable for you, please don't feel like you need to do that. And again, I want you to just be aware of your environment, be aware of where you're sitting, the sounds around you. feeling the weight of your body in your chair, softening your shoulders, softening your neck, and just really putting yourself in a neutral, comfortable position. And then I'd like you to envision a place, whether it's real or one you've created, where you find comfort, peace, and solace. Could be a beach, forest, a beautiful path that you've walked your whole life. It could be something completely of your own imagination. And just notice yourself being there. Look around in your mind's eye in this place that gives you such joy, such peace. Look around and see what you notice. Do you notice beautiful, majestic redwoods, a gorgeous ocean moving slowly onto the beach, a beautiful blue sky, comfy chair? Just really take it all in. And then notice the sounds around you. Maybe it's the seagulls diving as they fish into the ocean, the wind, the rustling of the leaves in the trees, maybe some music playing off in the distance. Just take a moment to appreciate it. Notice what you feel around you. Do you feel the wind, the warmth, maybe a chill in the air, the cushion underneath you in your favorite chair with a beautiful blanket wrapped around you? This is your place. It can be anything you want it to be. And then take a moment to notice smells. Is there food, aromas in the air, or maybe the sea salt breeze blowing past you that you can just smell that gorgeous salt in the air? Maybe it's the autumn wind as you walk through the forest. And then just really take it all in. The sights, the sounds, the smells. And know that this is your place for you to return to anytime. And then as you slowly notice the environment around you again, as you come back to your place of sitting and being present, just allow the scene before you to dissolve and come back to the right here, the right now, knowing that you can go there anytime. As you take one last intentional inhale and exhale, flutter your eyes open, and then just check in. You know, sometimes I like to put my hand kind of on my heart and check in and just notice. Maybe there's nothing to notice, and that's okay too. So here are some things to do after our session. Sometimes drinking water is good to kind of bring you back to a place of, it's kind of like when you maybe experience something new, your body actually will react to it. So drinking some water will kind of regulate your system again. Maybe go for a walk if you're walking your dog, or walk around your house a little bit and kind of just move it through your body. Practice self-compassion if there was something you felt that was joyful or possibly uneasy feeling. Allow yourself to approach it with a little self-compassion and kindness. Honor any emotions or feelings that came up while we practiced today, and then possibly consider starting a daily mindfulness practice. There are resources here that I find very beneficial, such as apps that are either subscription-based or free. Insight Timer is amazing, and over the years, it's developed to be this amazing free resource. It's called Insight Timer. And then here are some podcasts that I really, really enjoy listening to. And lastly, this mindfulness resource page, if you go to our site on Lake Orion and go to resources and go to mindfulness, there's articles I've written, articles that I think are worth reading. There's books, there's websites, apps, podcasts, all kinds of things to continue your journey of looking into mindfulness. And then if you would like to follow Lake Orion Mindfulness on Twitter. All right. Thank you so much for hanging with me. My gratitude is immense, and I am so appreciative of your time. And I hope that this is something that any part of it resonated with you. I will stay for questions, comments, suggestions. Please feel free to offer feedback. And also you can email me if you go to the it's easy, Stephanie.Harris at LOK12.org, Stephanie.Harris at LOK12.org. Contact me, please. I'd love to hear from you. Again, my gratitude. Thank you so much. And please, I offer any kind of mindfulness anytime, anywhere. So thank you. Have a great night. Have a great night. Thank you. Thank you.